Welcome to the Full Frame Podcast. I'm Ian. I am the host of this episode and every episode. And today I have Tina and Madison with me. Today we're talking about scenario-based training. And this is we'll call this a new season. We did our first 5 episodes a little bit earlier in the year. And now we're back to do a few more. So this kind of kicks off a new season of the Full Frame Podcast. So Tina and Madison, thank you both for being with me today. Tina, do you want to introduce yourself again so that everyone can get to know you a little bit?
Sure. I'm Tina Carroll. I am the multimedia team lead for AVIAN, and our team provides quality products from virtual tours, video, scenario-based training, e-learning. You name it, pretty much we figure it out for you.
Yes. And Madison, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Madison Smith. I'm a video producer at AVIAN. My background is in creating short and long form storytelling, and I do that with AVIAN, specifically on the post-production and the pre-production side, working to help create exceptional videos for our customers.
Yes. And one thing that Tina has recently said that I think is brilliant is that we're aiming to make these Netflix style videos and not even style, quality videos. And Madison, you're a big part of getting us there, as well as Tina, obviously. So I think this is a great topic, scenario-based learning through video. Let's just start with, what is that? What does that mean? What's that capability?
Right.
And maybe an example of it.
So scenario-based training can be video format. It provides a real-life example for the learner in a safe environment where it can be interactive. There can be challenges within, feedback, peer feedback. And it's really important in today's world because I think the statistic is almost 70% of us are visual learners. So not only do you expect a quality product when you go to Netflix, as an employee, you expect the same quality product when you're watching a training video. And that, for those of us who create those products, presents us with a wonderful challenge to be at that level and create those real world examples that people can use and apply their on the job training and their skills within that safe environment, whether it's classroom or virtual. So scenario-based training allows us to create those scenarios that, especially if they involve safety training or first responder training, so that it provides that safe environment so that people can learn and apply what they learned.
Yeah. So I didn't ask you before we started recording, are we allowed to talk about the scenario-based trainings that we've done?
We are allowed to talk about what the things that we learned.
Okay.
The outcomes. Madison's shaking her head as well. We did a detailed scenario-based training for a government client, and that's pretty much all we can say about the client. But we can talk about the process and the outcomes.
Yeah. So let's dig into that. And I guess what I also forgot to mention at the beginning of this episode is that that first season of the Full Frame Podcast, we really went through our process for almost any project, right? It was really general. With this new season, we're kind of diving in a little bit more to these more specific topics. So with that being said, we hope to cover the entire process of this scenario-based training in this episode. Do we want to start at the beginning and just kind of talk about what that looks like?
Yeah, it was kind of like making a movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of like making a movie. It was making a movie. And we made 4 short scenario-based movies for our client. And the first step was to assemble the team, which Madison was a big part of. So I'll let her talk about, what she did there. Just like in anything else, it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of talented people. We had, in addition to myself, Madison, who helped us with was instrumental in storyboarding, applying the script to the storyboard, casting, costuming. We'll talk about that. We had a director on set. We had local law enforcement on set. We had multiple production assistants, in addition to our cinematographer, our sound engineers, our backup cinematographer. It was a full-blown movie production. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Madison, do you want to chime in and just kind of explain that beginning process? So the storyboarding, and you're, not to give too much detail, but you're on the West Coast, right? So you did most of this work remotely, I assume?
I did, yes. Yes, I'm out in San Diego, as well as our other producer and our director is out here as well. And so we worked together. The customer provided an overview of what they were looking to do and what they were looking to communicate to their audience. And it involved a lot of decision points in the video, in the film that we were creating. So as you envision the film, envision these like stop and discuss points. So that was a really neat to incorporate into this video and into this video style. So we started with what they had given us and what they were looking for their audience to learn and to understand the learning objective. And our scriptwriter created a script and then worked with the SME to guide that script in the most realistic way possible. And then I strove to bring it alive through the storyboarding. And storyboarding is a tool that we use to communicate ideas among our team and then with our SMEs and with our customer. So I started creating basic illustrations of key shots for the production and would put them in the sequence of the story that we were trying to tell. And as you look at the storyboard, it helps you figure out camera angles and lighting and sound needs. And if there's any holes in the production, like, oh, we forgot that we need to make this happen, either in a logistical way or in a visual way. And then we shared the script and the storyboard back with the customer, and they looked over it and they helped us identify like key moments, again, for their learning objective, where it was like, we're really close here, but we need to create more space, for example, between an officer and a subject, because that's a law enforcement role that we want to properly convey. Or in our learning objective, we need this decision point where we need to show a bombing suspect's hands in a certain way, because that helps the audience know how to respond in a real life situation. So the customer would give us feedback, as well as the SMEs would give us feedback on that storyboard, again, as we were all communicating the ideas of what we intended to create for this final deliverable.
Yeah, and you're hitting a point that I wanted to bring up about the SME. So, and we talked about this in the first season, so it's going to be a lot of that line coming back up as we talk. But for AVIAN, I think we're very unique because video production is only one of our capabilities. And we have SMEs internally, which for this project was our director of CTS, I believe.
Yes.
And we also had that external SME come in and help as well. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, that was quite instrumental, as Madison was talking about. And it really, she did a wonderful job getting that feedback from both our internal counter threat solutions director, Tyler, and our external SME from the customer. So Madison, why don't you give us more about that meeting and maybe some specifics that, in addition to what you've already said, that they brought up. Particularly, I know we learned things about costuming and props, and, as you said, location, space.
Sure. Yes, we want everything to show an expert opinion. And so as we involved them, we ran the costumes by them, saying, like, is this the look that you're going for? From small things like matching the correct season to big things, matching the region, matching the rank, matching the proper radio that they would be using to communicate, matching the proper weapon, and how they would use it. So the SMEs were really helpful in some of the logistics. And then also, as we worked through the script, how would the actor or actresses move in a specific way? How would they speak in this situation? And again, getting the visuals right, things that we wouldn't have known were instrumental. And like when, someone's hands are placed on a steering wheel, we need to see them a certain way because again, it's part of the learning objective for this audience. So it was really neat to hear from their point of view some of the things that we could really strive to absolutely get right for them. But also I think it was really neat for them to kind of hear how we were working on it and how we were, improving their vision and how we were all going to work together to make it happen. And again, have it an expert level production for our customer.
Yeah, and I think I remember hearing maybe Beth talk about, Beth is the VP for our TMC and T&E sectors at Avian. So she oversees kind of the whole team. But I think I recall her saying like the police officer, the law enforcement officer that was on scene because we needed a police vehicle, right? Kind of turned himself into a SME. And you hit some of those points already where like, how would you pull a gun out of a holster? How would you, or where would you put the radio on your uniform and that kind of stuff? So we had, like we already talked about our internal SME, our external SME, but the having that law enforcement officer on the set also, from what I've heard, helped just bring that realistic aspect to it as well.
Yeah, he was completely awesome. And what we learned during our customer meetings, that Madison asked really great questions, as well as our scriptwriter. What emotion are we trying to convey? What reaction are you looking for from the audience, so that we could make sure we built that into not only the script, but into our shooting and our camera angles and our costuming. Madison even went as far as had visuals of all the different options,
right,
so that both our internal SME and external SME could select those. And then our onset SME, law enforcement officer, was also instrumental in making sure that even though the weapon was a prop, that it was handled correctly.
Right.
It was always in our possession, unless it was with the actor, and the guidance to make sure that it appeared safe. Even though it was a prop,
right,
everyone knew it was a prop. However, to make the scenario as realistic as possible, we wanted to treat it as a realistic session. And our young production assistant, who was in charge of the utility belt, was given very clear directions where everything went after, and she followed them to the letter. So it's always helpful to have those people on set with you,
yep,
so that we're telling the story correctly, and that everything that's in the script and everything that's in the beautiful storyboard is translated to film.
Let's talk about.
Yes, and I'll just add there too, if you don't mind, Ian, if I jump in. We do plan things so well, but also things change. The weather changed. We had a personnel situation that required rewriting the script on site, and so having this need there was amazing to be like, look, we need to ship from an exterior to an interior location. And so, our on-site director was amazing to rewrite the script and to involve this me. Look, help us navigate this hallway scenario that we've just now created, and how the officer and the suspect need to be interacting. So, as much planning as we put into it, there's also, an adaptability that always has to happen. And so the on-set chemistry that was there was amazing for, some unforeseeable circumstances.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages with Avian is we plan every detail.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm completely neurotic, so I like to plan every detail ahead of time, which is a wonderful thing, because then when things happen, and the situation was that it was 1,000,000 degrees outside,
yeah,
and we needed to make a change for not only our team, but for the actors involved and the location involved, and we were able to do that because everything else was planned out, and our team did a wonderful job. We rewrote a script on site.
On site, right.
Pulled all the SMEs in, pulled the actors in after. They all responded very well and were very happy to be inside because it was 1,000,000 degrees outside. And it ended up working great. The product came out wonderful, and the client really liked it.
I was going to say, if anyone, I know people are listening to this. As you're listening to this is like insiders information, because I didn't even know that you guys had to make that adjustment on set. So kudos to you guys, because I think it turned out great. And like I said, I wouldn't have known that you had to rewrite the script and had to move inside. I knew it was 1,000,000 degrees that day, and you guys were having some challenges there. But
yeah, and one of the things that also that I really like about our company at AVIAN, you mentioned our VP. She brought us coffee in the mornings,
yes.
Which is wonderful. Our COO brought us ice and drinks at lunchtime. I mean, I haven't worked many places where that happens,
right.
So I was just, so touched by that, and that was a wonderful thing. And we have such a nice relationship with the community that we were able to move inside because we had spent the time to get to know the location. Yep. We were at a school setting, a high school setting, and we made sure that we spoke to the principal, we spoke to the points of contact. And when we asked to change, the immediate answer was, yes, of course, whatever you need. Right. And that allowed us to be really adaptable.
So that brings up a question. We've, again, in previous episodes, have talked about like location scouting. When you guys went and did that location scouting, did you also look at things that you thought you, in this case, ended up needing, but you weren't sure if you were going to use it or not? So, for example, the hallway, like most of your video for that area was done outside on a hill in like a recreation area. But when you first went there, did you scout the school to see that if there were potential places to shoot?
Yes. And then what Madison was able to do was to bring that scouting trip into the storyboard.
Okay.
And Madison, tell us about how you built in the actual shots from the scouting visit into the storyboard so the client could see the realistic picture of what we were demonstrating.
Yes, that was awesome. The cinematographer took some test footage, and so I pulled the test footage, took some screenshots, and replaced the prior illustration in the storyboard so that we could get a real feel for what it looked like, what shade was available, what cover was available. And I say that because that was a practical need for a prop, because this was a first responder situation. And so we had to make some adjustments there. It really helped just bring it to life. So that was a really helpful additional tool that the cinematographer provided, and I was able to bring it in. And then we made some tweaks, because even though you read, hey, the officer needs to be responding to a disabled vehicle, we had to work back and forth with the customer and the SMEs to make sure that we had the body position of the actor correct, and all that was pre-planned. And we closed a road. So you had to figure out those details in advance. And so working through the storyboard and then working through an updated revision with literal footage helped us get all of that right, so that it went so smoothly on the day of the shoot when the road was closed and we were, on a, tight time schedule to get these shots right. There was none of that posturing on the set. It was all done in advance. And so that was very helpful.
Yeah, especially for our area, because it's not completely normal for roads to be shut down for filming of anything. So the time sensitive matter there definitely makes sense. What else do you guys want to talk about? I know the next episode we're going to talk more about like the cinematography and editing process, right? So what else do we want to cover in this episode?
Particular project, casting was a huge step.
Yep.
And Madison was instrumental in the casting. Madison, do you want to talk about that process? Kind of how we all tag teamed in that. So.
We did. Speaking of tight timelines, man, we made it happen, and huge credit to the pool of talent that is available in Southern Maryland. This was another way that I think AVIAN did a great job of adding another layer of expertise. Tina and I worked really hard to cast actors that had relevant training, basically military or law enforcement training or experience. And so that added more credibility to how they were moving in the scene and how they understood the SME's direction. We made sure to get the right body type because obviously that adds believability. And, we worked to have enough time to cast, and then we filled the set with extras because that, brings scenes alive. And that also helped incorporate the client's learning objective. They needed people in the scene to cause their audience to have a certain decision to make. So we worked really hard to get the right main characters in there and then the right background characters in there to, again, bring everything to life for the client. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I think something we haven't said that we probably should is that the main audience for these trainings are first responders. So they're going to know, and you've been saying this the whole time, the details matter because they're going to know what's right and what's wrong. And if we basically lose them and lose their engagement because, like you're saying, someone's hands aren't on the steering wheel the right way, it's something that we obviously don't want to happen, and we want to make sure our customer knows that we don't want that to happen, right? Yeah. So the casting for this, like you said, having people with backgrounds in military or first responders or whatever it is, that makes sense. And again, something I didn't know, that our actors had those backgrounds.
Yeah, and we leveraged local talent, and then we also expanded for the police officer role into the DC metro area because there was we were close enough for that, and that was allowed us to pull in the law enforcement actors that we needed, who basically had law enforcement background and were also very committed to the project. Once they learned it was a first responder training, they were completely bought in as actors, but then they were also completely bought in as professionals. And that was wonderful to see, the commitment that the law enforcement community has to their own training and their own just sense of duty to the general public was really amazing for us to see. And I was just so touched by their commitment from our SME on set to our actors, that, it was a great experience for us.
Right. Is there any other topics we wanted to cover in this? I know, Tina, you had some notes. Did we hit everything that you wanted to talk about?
I think we hit a lot of it, Madison. There was so much that we did that we put together really quickly. I talked about the team. I just can't say enough about the wonderful team. We worked remote. We tag team. That's the great thing about AVIAN, is our culture is always supporting each other and creating raving fans of our customers, but also creating raving fans of each other. And I've talked about that before. We supported each other in every single thing we did, through the cast meetings to internal team meetings. I mean, Madison, we had team member out one day, so another team member filled in, and it all worked out wonderful. And then, of course, it was the sun gods were blazing the day that we filmed, and we regrouped, and everyone did a fantastic job.
Great. Yeah, awesome. Madison, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second because I see your 2 awards in the background, and there may be more that you might be covering. So I assume that means you worked on some pretty major projects. How does working on the AVIAN project differ or compare to working on things that you've worked on in the past?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So this is an Emmy Award, and it is one of 2, and this is a Telly Award for online content, and it's one of 2. And so, yes, great projects, but really they're team awards. And I worked with great teams, and AVIAN is exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for my next team to be a part of. The collaboration makes everything better in any film or production or project or any part of life, really. And so AVIAN has been an amazing team to work with and to collaborate on and to create excellence and to enjoy it. So I love being a part of AVIAN, and I'm so proud of all that we've created together so far.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some awards that say AVIAN on them soon, with all the great work you guys are doing. So like I mentioned earlier, in the next episode, we're going to dive more into like the cinematography aspect and the editing aspect with Paul, who's been on before. Until then, I want to say, Tina and Madison, thank you for being on and chatting with me today. And I will see everybody next time.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a wrap for this episode of the Full Frame Podcast. We hope you found these tips on leveling up your corporate videos useful. If you're interested in taking your videos to the next level, be sure to check out AVIAN's video production services. Our team is dedicated to creating high-quality, engaging videos that not only tell your story, but help you reach your goals. To learn more, head over to our website at avian.com. That's avian.com. And don't forget to tune in next time for more insights and advice on video production. Thanks for listening.